Well, first of all, we're Italian. We don't believe in divorce. We believe in the nuclear family.
My name is Rocco Fior Pinocchio, and this is how I made the album So Long Nuclear Family. The concept of the album is primarily about the decline of the nuclear family in recent times. There's plenty of happy families that exist, I'm sure, but it has drastically gone down since the 60s, if I remember correctly. My parents were never married. They broke up before I was born, and then when they found out that I was born, they got back, and then they broke up like a year later. I never really understood what real love looked like because I was never around it. And I'm sure there's plenty of people my generation that have experienced the same thing. I think because people have more freedom nowadays, they are a little bit more careless. So it's really like a polarizing topic. Like, it's great that people have more freedom now, but it's just kind of sad that a lot of kids aren't in that sort of environment as much. The title of the album also works as far as my personal life goes. Like, I don't think there's a chance of me having a nuclear family anytime in the distant future. I have plenty of unresolved things that I would hate to make someone else go through. I could be married without children, probably, but even that's kind of a stretch. The album cover is me as a baby clinging onto this big fan, like a giant fan. It looks like I'm going to cut my hand off. And I think it represents pretty well what the concept of the album is. Because I had separated parents, I felt like there were many of instances where I had to naturally mature on my own, like faster than the average person. Or I felt all these emotions and intensity like decades before everybody else would. So in the cover, where this little baby is behind this giant fan. I don't even know how that picture exists. I hope the fan was off when that picture was taken, but it's still a great photo, and it's still hanging up in my grandparents' house to this day. But the baby is faced with this huge thing, and if you look closely, I'm looking down in the photo, almost like I'm oblivious to it all. So yeah, overall, a bunch of the themes on this album are romantic frustration, which turns into apathy, trying to cope with not being surrounded by enough positivity, probably. And there's some themes of like grief and loss on this album as well, which I will get into. Let's talk about the recording of the album. The album was recorded from September of 2025 to January of 2026. This album is very important for me because it's the first time I actually recorded with real microphones, an interface, a software, and mixing and panning everything properly, EQ, compression, things like that. It's recorded like an actual album instead of doing it on iMovie or GarageBand. I would consider this like my first real album as far as production goes. Okay, for the lineup of this album, I got rid of the two guitar idea, and I finally started playing keyboard. And I love playing keyboard so much. For real, piano is like my favorite instrument of all time. It teaches you everything that you need to know about music. Like the way it's laid out is sheet music almost, with the flats and the sharps in their own categories. The left hand playing the lower notes and then the right hand playing the higher notes. It's percussive, it's melodic. You can do voicings that you wouldn't be able to do on other instruments because the keys are all right there. I just love piano so much, and I wish I got to it sooner, but better late than never. The pianist in this band of mine is the front man or the lead singer. Then the bassist and the guitarist do backing vocals. The guitarist does the high backing vocals, and then the bass does the lower backing vocals. And then the drummer just does this thing, but he's really working the hardest. The panning map that I had for this was that the drums were in the middle, the bass was in the middle, and the lead vocals were in the middle. The piano was to the right, and then the lower backing vocals were to the right, and then the guitar was to the left, and the higher backing vocals were to the left. And I used a click track for every single song, and I never missed a note while I was singing, even when I was singing higher, like the harmonies. However, when I used to record vocals, I would wear AirPods, which were pretty noise transparent, so I could hear myself pretty good. But because I'm using an actual interface, I was wearing headphones, like actual headphones for the first time, so it was kind of hard to hear myself. So there are points on the album where I'm singing a little more nasally than I should, probably. But it kind of adds to the punk edge that I have in my music anyway, so it's like an intended effect. There's always room for improvement no matter how much you have mastered something. There's always something higher. If I were to mess around with it too much, I would end up ruining the album. I think it sounds good the way it is, and those takes that I did are what the album is. Like, I can't take that back. The instruments that I've used in this album are as follows. For keyboard, I used a Yamaha P125. I had a sustain pedal, and I was using the grand piano, electric piano, rotary organ, and rock organ. I was also singing with the megaphone. So similar to some of my earlier work where I would hold the megaphone with one hand and then do other stuff with the other, that's what I'm doing with the keyboard here. And it works so well with the keyboard this time. For the drums, I had like the standard drum set with a hi-hat, 2 crash cymbals, different sizes, a ride cymbal, a high tom, a floor tom, and then a snare drum. And there are some songs on the album where I had the snare drum turned off, so I included that as a little option. And then some of the accessories that I had were a cowbell, a set of chimes, and then a shaker. And then I have these drumsticks which are normal when they're turned right side up, but then when I turn them over, they have mallet heads. And I also got brush sticks for more jazzy stuff, and if I turn them over, I could do cross sticking on the snare drum. For guitar, I'm using a Fender Telecaster with a distortion pedal, a tremolo pedal, a wah pedal, a chorus pedal, an ebow, and then a glass slide. And then for bass, I had a distortion pedal and then an automatic wah pedal. I wanted to include some sort of modulation for the bass, and I thought auto wah was a good idea. I didn't use any phaser because the rotary organ effect is kind of like a phaser where it keeps going in and out. But it's not like a wah pedal where you can control it or like it's activated whenever a note is played. It's just this constant wave that keeps on going. And as far as flanger goes, I don't like flanger at all. I don't like the way it sounds. It's a little too obnoxious for me, but to each their own. And then of course, my vocals and backing vocals. So that's the lineup for this album. Now that you know about the subject material, the recording, and what I used to make the album, I'm going to talk about the actual songs, as well as some musical elements that may have enhanced the lyrics in some way. Let's get started. Track number 1, I'm So Malice. This song is meant to confuse the listener in a few different ways, actually. The first minute and a half of the song is meant to clear the room before the rest of the album kicks in. It's really supposed to alienate the listener and make them go like, what am I listening to? I've never opened an album where it's a swing tune. It's almost like an invitation, like sit down, get comfy, get ready to listen to the album. Not like the intro isn't part of the song, but you know what I mean. The idea of the song is that I got sick of everybody thinking that they like know what I'm doing or they know me better than I know myself, but I just got so used to it that I'm like, okay, you got me, I'm a terrible person. It's like such an obnoxious smile with like the angriest possible attitude behind it. That's why the title of the song is I'm So Malice. That's a stupid title, and obviously the correct grammar would be I'm so malicious. We all know that. It's also kind of about self-respect in a way. I believe that no matter what I'm doing, as long as I know what I'm doing, then I have nothing to fear. Because, like, if somebody misinterprets it, that's on them. Obviously, don't do anything, like, edgy or terrible or, like, offensive on purpose. But don't let anybody tell you what they think you're doing, because it's probably not true. This song uses every instrumental feature that each of the members of the band contribute to. There's not a single accessory or effect or pedal that I didn't use on this song. So the song is kind of like a showcase. There's also some subtle motifs throughout the song. Like the bass line in the beginning is walking the chords that you hear right before the takeoff with that angry G power chord. And the little slide melody that's going on during the main piano riff of the song in the beginning is what the organ plays as like the little mini solo before the choruses come in. And the main piano riff does come back on the organ right before the second chorus. And I think the song has a very satisfying ending with like the big scream and then those 3 chords and then the chimes. It's one of the most progressive songs on the album, and the album does get progressive. Track number 2, Spessartine. This song was inspired by a friend of mine on the internet who goes by the name of Marna Zell Jones. They made a song called Sapphire, and it was like this moody love song that's like kind of sad, but it's also pretty backhanded. And I really liked the song. I thought it was very pretty. So I wanted to make a song that was like the anti-version of that. So instead of Sapphire, I called it Spessartine, because Spessartine is an orange gem and Sapphire is a blue gem, and orange and blue are opposite colors. So that's how the song gets its name. Lyrically, it's a very delusional song. It's like almost a love song, but it isn't because of how unrealistic it is. But it is very sweet and beautiful. I love the electric piano sound accompanied with the chorus effect on the guitar. And the brush sticks too, because the brush sticks are like all these little bristles that are hitting the cymbal at the same time. So it's like natural chorus almost. This is one of the more psychedelic songs on the album. And I'm still a punk musician, but I love incorporating other genres, as you are aware. This song, being on the sweeter and more beautiful side, creates a very interesting contrast since it is placed right after I'm So Malice, which was an intended effect. Mood swings are a very common theme with my music, I think. I go in and out of like negative episodes all the time. Like just weeks or months of feeling like shit, and then it kind of comes back. I'm not bipolar though, but I am autistic. Anyways, this is a very beautiful song, and it was the first song that I ever recorded for the album. Track number 3, The First Move. The title of this one I think is pretty self-explanatory. It's about the exhaustion of trying to find something. Like, it would be a lot more convenient if there was just one option. Like, there was that one special someone, and you knew that that was the person that you were going to be with. But no, it's like a guessing game, and you're like talking to all these people. Not at the same time, like in order, just in your life. And it feels like after a while you've wasted so much time, like years, poof, they don't mean anything anymore. I spent a lot of my younger days trying to like find my soulmate. And obviously that was a very unrealistic expectation. I felt like I wasted a lot of time trying to do so. I can't make the first move for everything. It's impossible. There is a mighty good guitar solo on this song, I must say. So definitely look out for that. And at the end of the song, I'm talking about walking away from everything, and I still got my script, because that's what it's like. It's a script that just keeps on happening. And now the possibilities are even less because I've talked to more people since, and therefore I have less options. Even though there's so many people in the world, but it just feels so small and limited at times. But that feeling of loneliness gets disrupted with the next song. Track number 4, Hey Pretty Boy. This song is about, instead of how tiring it is to make the first move, it is just as intimidating, even more so, when somebody makes the first move for you. Again, there's that little imbalance that I was talking about with the first 2 tracks. The song is primarily sung through a megaphone because it's through the perspective of another person. When I'm singing with the megaphone on this song, I'm holding the megaphone in one hand, and then with the other hand, I'm repeatedly tapping on my chest, where it creates this tremolo effect, where my voice keeps going in and out. I thought it was a fun little effect that I could use. That's not even really an effect. And the song sounds beautiful, but it has such weird lyrics. None of them are sexual, though. So the moral of the song is, like, you can't trust what somebody says just because they appear good and tell you everything that you want to hear. That's even worse than trying to make the first move for everything. It's just that feeling of getting love bombed, you know? Like, nobody wants to get love bombed, especially not immediately. Love bombing is so stupid, and I hate when people do it. And then at the end of the song, the character asks, how non-threatening does that sound? Like, oh, you can trust me. That doesn't sound threatening at all, does it? I really like the wah pedal in the beginning and ending of this song. It has this lo-fi feel when it's pulled all the way back, and then it jumps back in, and then it goes into the actual song. And the little drum thingy that I'm doing with like the snare turned off and the mallet in the beginning is the same rhythm that is at the end of the first move. And in between both of those hits, you have the electric piano intro at the very beginning that plays the lead melody throughout the rest of the song. Again, on the more beautiful side, like Spessartine. Track number 5, Jeremiah. This song is about and named after my grandfather, who passed away last year due to cancer. I thought very similarly to him, I think. He was very witty, and he didn't talk to a lot of people. I think his best friend was like his brother, who thankfully is still alive, and I talk to him regularly because he's got all the stories now. And we had a bunch of really fascinating talks about music, and he was the best cook, for real. And I was really excited to show him my album, It's All Happening, because it was going to have a movie. He died like 10 days before the album came out, and I was so furious. Like, I remember when he died, I wasn't even sad. I was like pissed because I had so much to show him. And then a week later, it ended up turning into sadness. Just like, why did this have to happen? So that's what the song is about, but there's also a lot of little details about this song. My grandpa was a very big jazz head, and when he was on the bed, he had jazz music hooked up to him in a way where he could hear it. I don't know, he was unconscious. And the main like rhythm of the song, that F sharp that is played over and over, like that melody that's playing is what that machine next to him was doing while he was on the bed. And I was told that when he would drive around, he used to say, like, oh, I can make better music in my head, because he would never have the radio on. I imagine this song is like what he were to interpret this little noise as, because it starts off as that little note, which is the same octave, same note, same everything, and then it evolves into this big piece. There's a line in the song that says, say hello to the nonies for us now. That's a reference to his parents, so one of my 4 sets of great-grandparents. And I got to meet both of them when I was very young. We called them the nonies, so Grandma and Grandpa nonies, because they always made pasta. Just old Italian people. And the name was a combination of noodles and macaroni, so nonies. And then I'm like, you burn inside us while you get to chow down. Lucky ass. That was thrown in as a little bit of humor, because I never saw him cry or display any sadness at all. So I think he would have liked the bit of humor that I added in, even though the song is very emotional. And then there's that organ solo. Damn! That was like my first real solo on a keyboard. And it's not like the hardest thing in the world, but I was very, very proud of it. And I can play it perfectly now, because I practiced it so many times during the recording. Every time I played it during the recording and I fucked up, I kept saying like, no, this is for Jerry. He would love this. His name was Jeremiah, but we called him Grandpa Jerry. He went by Jerry his whole life. But it wasn't biblical enough of a name, so he was named Jeremiah. It was between that and Jerome. But yeah, I really liked that solo. He was a fan of a lot of like funk dance music from the 70s and 80s as well. And then the part with the lead vocals sung through the megaphone at the end represents the voice of God. I have a theory that the reason he passed away is because he didn't want us to see him in pain for so long. He had on and off cancer for 2.5 years, maybe more. He had it, then he beat it, then he got it again, and then it killed him. And I think he couldn't express it, but he got sick of the back and forth. And he was Catholic, so there's a chance that maybe like he saw God. God was like, you know, you can sit here and everybody's gonna watch you suffer, or I can take you right now and all of this will be over. I don't think he wanted us to see him struggle, so he was like, just take me, because it wasn't gonna get any better if he was getting older. The line that repeats, take care of yourself, is the last words that my grandpa ever said to me in person. We were at this family party chatting, and then when I had to go, he was like, love you, take care of yourself. So that really stuck out to me, so I put it in the song. Same with the line, I miss him and Gene, but I'll get to that later. And then it abruptly stops on that little cluster with the F and F sharp. And then the ending, those 4 chords on the rotary organ, those are the same chords that were being played during the solo section, except they're slower and just a lot more mournful. I'm happy that he's in a better place, but it's just so sad that he's gone. I wish I could show him everything that I did. That was a lot to take in, I know. That ends the first half of this album. Now we're going to talk about the second half of the album. Track number 6, Ollie. This song is about my sister. I have a half sister that I share with my dad. We have different moms, and her mom and my dad do not get along at all. She lives with her now, and this is all after I was born. She's younger than me. But me and her spent a lot of time together when we were younger, because my dad and her mom were married for 4 years, and then they got divorced, and then they moved back to where their side of the family was from. This song is a tribute to the times that we had and what could have been. I always said when I was younger that I wanted to like be roommates with her, like as young adults. So that's what that part of the song means, when I was like, I wish we were together all grown up. Her real name is Olive, but we called her Ollie back then. That was like her nickname when she was a little baby. I think this song is a beautiful song and is definitely overlooked compared to the rest of the songs on the album. And it has this like caveman drumming going on, because the snare's turned off. I'm playing with the mallets, and the tom drums are very prevalent. And it's only 4 chords. That's like the only 4-chord song on the album. Or like, that's like the most contemporary if I had to pick, but the chord structure is so good, and I love the melodies. I think I'm noticing a pattern with this album. Every single one of the even numbered songs is on the more beautiful side, and then all the odd number songs are more pessimistic or energetic, I guess. But yeah, I love my sister, I miss her, and I hope to get closer with her even more in the future. Track number 7, Zap. This song is about my brother. I have a half-brother on my mom's side, and we have different dads. My brother's situation is very unfortunate. because I met his dad like when my mom and him were still dating, and then I found out that they were gonna have a kid. And I actually didn't like him at first. I was like mad that my mom was paying more attention to him. Then my brother was born. We were in the more northwest suburbs, and then we moved to the north side of the city for the four of us to live together. And he was like barely there. He was always like doing something else. I don't know. He was a musician, so I think he was recording a lot. But I don't remember him like coming out with anything. Definitely not as consistent as me, I'll tell you that. So then him and my mom kind of fell out, and then he just dipped, and he very rarely sees him. I don't even really think that he sees him at all. And I was 9 when all of that happened. And I had to like move schools, and it sucked, and I couldn't get along with anybody. And then like 2 years later, I moved back to the suburbs that we were at, just in a slightly different location. So then when I went to middle school, I recognized all the kids that I knew from my older elementary school, when I could have just stayed there the whole time. I was never really that close with my mom and my brother when all of that stuff was happening. I would just sit in my room all the time because I was also a kid myself. And like I couldn't be a father figure. I just didn't know any better. So my mom is a single mom of 2 boys. And she does a lot, but I felt very disconnected from her for the longest time. So back to my brother. This song is about me finally getting my driver's license and like us being able to drive wherever we want. Now that I'm older and I have more resources, I can finally bond with him in all the ways that I wanted to when I was younger. And I can't wait for this summer. Oh man. And this song is very against his dad. His dad is basically a deadbeat, and I resent him heavily for the things that I was put through as a result of my brother's birth. Could have been beautiful, but the absolute worst things happened. And I know everything happens for a reason, but that doesn't mean that it was a good reason. He had to go through all that shit as well. He just didn't have the capacity to feel any of it. We're both going to excel from here on out, I'm sure of it. He reminds me a lot of me, and it kind of scares me because I can tell that he's a late bloomer. He's like shorter than everybody and like not as involved as everyone else socially. He has ADHD. I would just hate for him to experience the same things that I did. I think he has less violent intentions than I did because I was actually a very angry kid. I've been able to manipulate it better in recent years. Being young sucks. It really does. I hated my childhood, but forget it. It's over with, and now I can make my brother's life more fun. I always wanted an older brother. And the ending of that song is just so menacing because of that riff, and it just keeps going, and it sounds like it's gonna jump out of the speaker and try to attack you. This is the most, like, musically punk song on the entire album. And it's like progressive punk, too. It's like No Means No. And the very ending, where the drums keep getting louder and louder until it just abruptly stops, is the best. This song is badass. I fucking love it. My brother's name is Zildjian, by the way, like the symbol. So ZAP are his initials, which is why we call him Zap. So it's like with Ollie, where like that's her nickname, and Zap is my brother's nickname. I'm just a proud brother, and I want him to do better than me. Track number 8, Vasectomize. This is the most like relevant point of the album lyrically. This song kind of embodies the whole concept of what this album is. There are so many people my age that are so apathetic about their love lives, or like where they see themselves. Like they want to hoe around, but like never really fully commit because they don't like the labels and they think that it makes them perform worse. If that's your mentality, just like don't do anything in that regard at all, even if you don't put a label on it. It's just an immature thought process in my opinion. Like either go all or nothing. And like people can do whatever they want. It's just depressing to be around. And I know that not everybody my age is like that, but when a lot of people my age are like that, it's hard to just ignore. I always wanted a soul tie with someone. I didn't want to like date someone that would be my best friend. I wanted like a deep, soulful connection. I think other than Ollie, this song has the most conventional chord structure on the album because it's very straightforward and it doesn't take that many turns, but it does have good chords, especially near the end. It starts off kind of mellow and then it takes off, and then the ending is this beautiful chord progression that has nothing to do with the rest of the song. On the piano, I'm playing the root chords with the left hand and these arpeggios on the right hand. And then the guitar is playing the full chords and it keeps adding a pedal every repetition. It does the chord progression 3 times. The song also starts and ends the same way with 4 measures of that major 7. I also like the chimes and cymbal hits in this song as well near the end. Like Hey Pretty Boy, this song is sung primarily through a megaphone because, again, it's through the perspective of other people. That is how I do my distorted vocals. Every time I want to sing a song that is through the perspective of someone that isn't me, I will do it with distorted vocals because it feels more distant than if I were to just sing it regularly. I also just like the way it sounds. The ending of the song kind of feels like walking through everything and just taking everything in and realizing that, it's not what you thought it was going to be. Generation Z so far is by far the loneliest generation that has ever existed. I hope the generations that come after us don't follow that sort of thing going on. We're still better than millennials though. Track number 9, Solitude. This is the big declaration of the album. I put all of my angriest, isolated thoughts into this song. I wrote this song over numerous weeks or months even. I felt very lonely during the writing of this song and I felt like there was really nowhere to go. Either that or I didn't really want to go anywhere because I didn't like anybody around me. Nobody was appealing to me. And I haven't been in a relationship for over a year as of making this video. Not even like any talking stages. I wanted solitude more than anything. This song is about the desire to not be interested in anyone. The only reason that I have the capacity to be interested in people is because that's how our brains are wired. Unless I was like a sociopath or something. The lyrics right after the second chorus are the most important. Where I said, I want solitude, not the right one. That is very, very true. At least when I was writing that song. If I could choose between being happy with the perfect person for the rest of my life that was for me, or being totally content by myself and never feeling anything for someone else ever again, I would have chosen that option because I would have been more grounded and productive. And I felt like people were just wasting my time, or that like being in a relationship really wasn't going to solve all my problems. And the reason we are wired to like people is because that's what keeps us reproducing. It makes us go insane. And I always thought that liking somebody was like a crime when I was younger, because if you liked somebody or like had a crush on them, it was envious or something, or that you were jealous of them in a way because you wanted something that you couldn't have, which was them. Every time I open up to somebody, I feel this like emptiness or disgust. It's like a really bad hangover, like where I say everything that's on my mind and then I feel like total shit the next day. And then it lingers. And I like the ending of this song too. The last minute of this song is so fucking angry. I love it. It's kind of jarring because the first 3 minutes of the song are very pretty or well written. And then the last line of the song is very intriguing where I go, how did you do it? If there really are people that can do all these things that I think are impossible, how did they manage to get by? What things are they doing differently than me? Which leads us to the last song on the album. Track number 10, Gene. This is a tribute to my great-grandma who also died of cancer last year. And I'm not writing all these songs as like a sob story to be like, oh, my life is so terrible. These are just things that I was feeling that I really wanted to get out because I just felt them so strongly. And I thought they made for good pieces of music. So the song is a tribute to her life and her dedication. Her and my great-grandpa that she was married to, they had 4 kids, 9 grandkids, and 17 great-grandkids. She was very much a family person. Her husband, which was my great-grandfather, went to jail for whatever reason. I don't know the full story. So she took care of 4 kids pretty much all on her own. I'm sure she had like some people help here and there, but like she was the star of the show. And then when he came home, I'm sure that she was absolutely elated. By the time he came home, they were already grandparents. Like their kids went on to have other kids. But like in the 2000s up to this point, they kind of like settled down and they were just like the elders of the family. And I think that was them in their prime. There's a part in the song where I'm referencing the last conversation that I ever had with my great-grandma in person. My great-grandfather had dementia for 5 years, like from 2020 and then on. And I had no idea about it. And I was at this birthday party in 2024 and she was there. And I was like, oh my God, great to see you. And I was like, where is he? Because they were always sitting together. And she actually broke the news to me. She was like, oh, he's just old and slow these days or something like that. And she looked at me and she goes, I miss him. Like, imagine your man goes to prison for almost 3 decades, and then he comes back, and then when you're old as shit, he goes away again. And that gathering was the last time that I ever saw her in person. I actually did see her, like, the day right before she died. I was the only great grandkid that was there. The guitar solo in this song is probably my best. I'm very proud of the guitar solo in this song. And it's all done over 2 chords, which I'm very impressed about. Usually I relied on, like, interesting chord progressions to make the solo stand out more, but I made the solo stand out on its own. So when I was at her wake, I was reminded of all the people that I spent time with, like my second cousins and my first cousins once removed, just like all the people that I'm related to because of her. I was like, oh my god, all these people are here because she exists. It was just such a mind fuck. Like, that was like the last family gathering, if you think about it, that I can remember. That was really the only sweet part about the services and everything. It brought everybody together, and it really made me self-reflect, because she had her first kid when she was 19 and I'm 18, and I was really thinking about, like, when I'm old or when I'm gone, am I going to be able to bring so many people together? Because she had a lot of friends too. Like, she was a social person. I don't think anybody has, like, a bad memory of her, and she never used profanity. So her passing affected me in a different way than my grandpa's passing affected me. My great-grandma's passing affected me because of how much it made me self-reflect and how much of a family person she was. And the commitment too. Like, to be committed to your man like that, after all the shit that you guys go through. I can't see anybody in my generation committing to someone like that. That's just unheard of. I can't think of anybody who would do something like that in general. Really makes me sad. And the ending to this song is just perfect. I'm doing this stuff with the cymbals and the mallets and the chimes, and then the bass and the guitar are doing the thing with the piano. I'm doing all of the chords that were done in the song previously, arpeggiated, and then with this B octave, like, lower bass thingy in the root. And it sounds so transcendent and just, like, heavenly. It's meant to represent her ascension. And then it ends on that F sharp major 7/9 chord or whatever. That's, like, the best way I could have ended the song and the album. Fun fact, I actually showed my nonna, which is my grandmother in Italian, the song Jean, because that's her mom. And she loved it. She thought it was very beautiful. And the next day, we got news that my great-grandfather that had dementia was about to die. And we just did a service for him 2 months ago. So when I wrote the song and everything, he was still alive. And he just so happened to pass right after I showed it to their kid. So yeah, that's a summary of every one of the songs on this album. I know that was a lot, but I had fun talking about it. Overall, I love this album. I'm so proud of it. I know I might be biased, but I've never been this proud of myself for something in my entire life. So I'm excited to see where my mind will take me in the future, because I'm at this point in my life where I'm expanding creativity-wise, but my mind is also expanding because I'm coming of age. And this is the first album that I recorded fully as a grown adult, like a legal adult, 18 years old. And just the way it sounds and the instrumentation and everything, it's just stuff that I would have never considered doing years ago. Anyways, I don't mean to boast about myself so much. This is kind of my time to talk about it, so that's that. But I really love it, and I wish to promote it more by potentially doing live shows. I would love to perform. I've always wanted to perform. I could do, like, acoustic sets. I could do a backing track on my laptop where it's like everything but the piano and the voice, so I could play piano for people. Or I could recruit some other fellow musicians. Again, I have videos that you can watch. So when you can, definitely give this album a listen or watch if you watch the videos. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you very much. I seriously cannot thank you enough. All I want is to make people happy with my musical ability. That's why I do what I do. And I take everybody equally serious, even the people who don't like my music as much. There's no such thing as objectively bad constructive criticism. But some artists just aren't ready for that. So thank you again. This is how I made the album So Long Nuclear Family. My name is Rocco Fior Pinocchio, and I will see you next time.